Today we will be just talking about what does it mean to savor relationships. And not just romantic relationships, but just relationships in general, of the connections we have with the people around us, our environment, our close friends, our family members, and finally ourselves, and how they're all intertwined one way or another. To start with, how do you slow down?
Okay.
And what does slowing down even mean to you?
I think you're asking amazing questions. And before I tell you how I slow down, I would say that the word relationship is a big word, right? Yani, I love that you specified, مش بس romantic relationships, because that's not all we are. It's a very important part of our experience, but we have a relationship with everything. Like the way I personally started looking at it recently is my relationships, yes, a lot of them are with human beings, but I also have a relationship with food. I have a relationship with my body. I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with nature. So the word relationship to me is just, it signifies a bond that I have with anything. And then what does that mean for me? What is my relationship with my body? When I think of my body, do I feel insecure and uncomfortable and it doesn't bring me joy and I don't feel stable? Or do I feel strong and excited and it's a vehicle I get to use? So relationship, to me, became something that signifies my dynamic with anything in my life. So I'm an emotional intelligence practitioner. I think that's just a fancy title to say I really care about how I feel and I really care about how people feel.
Yeah.
And I realized early on that no one really taught us anything about emotions. Like in school, in university, even most of the time in our families, we're not fortunate enough to have access to information about what it means to feel a certain way and why we have emotions. Like we take it for granted and don't really get what they are. Part of my personal experience led me to my professional experience where I was not okay emotionally. And I realized that I don't need to be not okay. And there are solutions. And the more I looked for solutions, the more information I found. The more information I found, the more excitement I had to share it with people.
Yeah.
And that leads us to here and now.
People definitely feel the excitement اللي انت تعطيها.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
honored. I'm glad. I really love what I do.
Oh.
And it's really fun to see, because here's the thing, okay, like practically speaking, we're human beings that are created to be emotional, social, relational. So every single person has their own perspective of what emotions mean, because they have their own emotions. So there's no one that doesn't understand or relate to emotional intelligence on some level, right? We're made for relationships, we're made for connection, we're made to be part of tribes and community. And that means so much of understanding who I am, what I feel, and what I want. Like if I like you, I know I want more of that. If I don't like you, I know I don't want more of that. And there's a reason behind all that. So to go back to the slowing down bit, I believe it's necessary for us and our health to slow down in every single aspect of our life. So for me, in the example I just gave, what is my relationship with my body? Let's say I really don't like it, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel attractive or healthy or whatever. How do I slow down enough to understand what that means so that I can savor it? Because savoring something, it's a beautiful word to savor. And it means to slow down and enjoy what something really is. Its details. I give it my full attention. When we have a negative relationship with something, it's so difficult to give it your attention. If anything, you want to push it out of your mind. Like, oh, I don't like my body, I don't want to think about it at all. Khalas, just ignore it. I don't like that person. I'll have this internal monologue of all the bad things about them. So I would say before I can savor anything, I need to have healthier, more positive relationships with the things I want to savor. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
And how I slow down, the first thing I would say is breathing. It's making a choice to slow down, actually. Sorry, I would paraphrase. It's choosing that I want to slow down right now. And then to me, as Remi, it's taking really intentional, deep breaths that just settle me into this moment so that I can choose what to focus on.
Yeah. Especially when you wanna, when you're feeling really frustrated and you just wanna say whatever's on your mind,
Yeah.
just breathe.
Yeah.
You know, and like just breathe, and then everything is gonna be alright. And then
Yeah.
you're even more mindful of the words you choose. How much does our surrounding, in terms of the people around us, influence our well-being?
Our environment shapes so much of who we are. And I would add to that that we're not confined to our environment. So let's say you are in a very supportive, very loving environment. It will give you that sense of self-worth and like, I believe in myself. You know, your belief system and your self-image will be stronger than if you're in an environment where people are putting you down constantly.
Yeah.
Yet, at the same time, I think this is one of the ways we're very fortunate as human beings, is that we get to choose. When we're aware that this environment is detrimental to my health, I get to choose people that actually align with my values. I get to choose people that find it easy to love me as I am. Because our environments, they don't really dictate who we are. To an extent, they shape parts of us, but not our totality. So I believe that it's very important to become aware of what our environment makes us feel. This, again, it's always a feeling-based thing in our lives as human beings. The more emotionally intelligent, which means the more aware I am of how I feel, the better I can manage my life and the quality of my life.
Okay.
So if I start to notice in my environment, I feel like I'm not loved, I'm not safe, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not valued, I get to recognize that and take action so that I can find the right people for me, because they're out there. 100% they are.
Definitely. And I think once you set the intention that I want to be surrounded by those who see me for who I am and appreciate that, they naturally just come to you in the most unexpected ways.
100%.
And how does it, so you mentioned what does it feel like to be around the people who are not your people, basically.
Yeah.
Tell us how it feels like to be surrounded by the right people.
It feels like home. You know, it feels like you're at home with the right people. I always believe that home is a person, not a place. You can have the nicest building and the nicest view. You can have all the material things, but if you're not with people that really see you and just want to give you love, it doesn't feel like home. So I believe when we're around the right people for us, that sense of community is really solidified. And you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And you feel safer, because one of our most basic needs is safety, right? So you feel safe when you're around people that really love you and see you, because they appreciate you. They want your best interest. When you're around people that unfortunately don't have the capacity to love you that way, you feel like you don't deserve it. You start to make up these beliefs in your mind as a person naturally that, oh, something must be wrong with me that they're treating me this way. When in reality, it's just that they don't have the capacity to give you what you need, but other people do.
Yeah.
And those people are the people that are going to feel more like home.
Yeah. But it must be challenging to create this shift between, or even acknowledging that these friends that I've been with my whole life are really just putting me down rather than lifting me up.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful quote that I came across, and I'm definitely not going to remember the whole thing. No, it said something like, surround yourself with 5 types of people: those who inspire you, motivate you, accept you, bring you joy, something along these lines. And it makes so much sense, because you can be surrounded by a group of people who naturally just want you to kill your dreams. And they're not inspiring, let's say, Can you tell us a bit more on how can we deal with this shift of acknowledging that these people are not good for me into I deserve better connections?
100%. So I think that's one of the best shifts we can do for ourselves, because it really means that I am giving myself the love that I deserve. It starts with that. It's an act of self-love to recognize. With anything in our life, the first step is always to be aware. لازم أكون واعية. لازم أشوف أنا وين. If I don't see where I am right now, I can't choose where to go. I'll always be like fumbling around in the darkness. But if I take one moment to really like sit with myself and reflect. And there's so many different ways to reflect. You can journal about it, you can talk out loud to yourself, you can talk to someone that you really trust. So many different ways to really bring that awareness to where am I right now? Do I feel happy? Am I genuinely happy where I am? If I'm not, okay, why am I not happy? Is it specific people that bring me dissatisfaction, disappointment, frustration, anger, pain? Like, what really is happening in my life? Because every person's life is their story, and you get to write your story. This isn't some like fancy Disneyland quote. You literally get to create your reality. It does take awareness, practice, intentionality, discipline, but you get to. And there's billions of people that have created their reality that we look up to and think, oh my God, they're so lucky. No, they're not. They just did the right things. So the right thing for me to do, if I want the right people for me, is first of all, acknowledge where I am. First, I'm aware, okay, this is what I want, this is who they are, and we're not matching. Two, and this is sometimes challenging, don't judge the situation as bad or good. It just is. So sometimes what we tend to do is, oh, I'm in this bad situation, it's my fault, I suck, I don't deserve good things. No, belittling ourselves just corrodes our sense of self. It does not help, it will not change the situation, it's just wasted time and energy. So if we're able to just skip that step and go into, okay, who do I need to be for the right people to find me and for me to find them? Because it doesn't start with the other people, it starts with me.
So how do you think can we savor a relationship?
Okay.
And how can we be present also in a relationship?
I'll tell you, for me, I used to think of savor more in the context of food. Very much food-related word. Like, oh, I want to savor this coffee or this chocolate. And in that context, in my mind, it always meant to not consume it quickly, not burn it out, to take my time and engage my senses. Like if I'm eating a piece of chocolate, to savor it, to me, is not to just like swallow, right? It's to take a little bite, to let it melt in my mouth, to really feel into the experience of what this chocolate is. Now, if I were to take like a similar experience or definition to relationships, I would say it's also slowing down. It's slowing down and really looking at the details of what that relationship does for me. Because again, we're multidimensional beings, which means I have senses that I can use. I can look at you and savor you visually. I can look at your details, your beautiful like eyes, your hair, the light on you. That's savoring the moment visually. There's so many different ways that we get to savor. These are with the senses. I can feel you, all that is really wonderful. And I believe that when it comes to relationships, there's an even deeper sense, which is the emotional things, right? So how does Zina make me feel? You make me feel safe. You make me feel loved. You make me feel seen and heard and valued. And savoring that for me is accepting that it's there. That's the first thing. Allowing myself to feel it. Because a lot of the time we push away joy because we're not used to it. We push away a compliment because no, I'm not that pretty. No, I'm not smart. Savoring something means allowing myself to be in that moment and believe, yes, this is my reality.
Have you heard of this before?
Of course.
No. Why am I this happy? There must be something wrong.
There's a phrase that says, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Which means...
Like, how can you just be present in this happiness and just absorb the moment?
So if you want my most honest truth that comes from a personal and professional experience, there has to be a mindset shift. Now, what you're talking about, this fear of joy, people are afraid of that happiness being taken away. And that means that a lot of people are focused in an external sense. Something externally to me is going to happen and it's going to take away my joy. And I'm scared of that happening. So now when I'm happy, I'm not going to attach to this joy so that when it's taken from me, I can let it go easier, right? But that belief system, that way of approaching joy is very limiting. Very, very limiting. A healthier, in my opinion, again, personally and professionally, a healthier way of approaching this would be to appreciate contrast. When I say contrast, I mean the wanted and the unwanted. Life will always have contrast. You will experience things you want and things you don't want every single day of your life. Allowing yourself to feel joy is really focusing on the things that you want and not giving too much attention on the things that you don't want. You acknowledge that they're there, but you don't obsess over them. You don't give them your energy, your attention. And you give far more attention, intentionally, to things that bring you joy. I promise you, with practice, this becomes a lifestyle. And when this becomes more of a lifestyle, you have a heightened quality of life. Because the way I look at life is I'm always looking for beauty. Oh, I love the color of this flower. I love how that tree is swaying in the wind. I'm always looking for beauty. I'm always looking for things I want to see or feel or experience.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah, everything is. So then when something that I don't want happens, I don't get too attached. Oh, I deserve bad things. Of course this happened. So it's a lot of our growth. It's a lot of our expansion, how we become bigger, better, more flourishing versions of ourselves. I do believe it's an emotional experience. I can tell you very easily that every single decision every single human on this planet makes has an emotional component. I'm getting this job because I think it'll make me feel safe and secure. I'm gonna date this person because I believe they're gonna make me feel loved and attractive. I wanna eat this because I think it'll make me feel satisfied. There's always an emotional component. We're emotional beings.
Speaking of savoring and relationships, often we're sitting with our loved ones or people, our friends, family, whoever it may be, and we're either thinking about work, so we're not present with them, or we're carrying the stress of some other thing that happened with us throughout the day, or the phone is somewhere around and I'm just texting, I'm not present. And that's not quality time, in my opinion. And I personally think that quality time is everything. Because if I ask you now, what is a memory that means a lot to you from when you were a child, it's something that has to do with quality time, either like some good time, like a moment by the beach, or like a good time at your grandparents' house, or a good time with a friend, something funny that happened. It's always a good time, and probably stress and phones, and it did not exist during that time. So can you tell us just how can we savor quality time the real way?
I love that. That's such a good thing. You know where I'll start? I'll start with, are you spending quality time with yourself? That is the first thing. If I love my company, other people are going to love my company. If I can't sit 5 minutes with myself without being distracted somehow, that's the same energy I'm going to extend to other people. And sure, it's not like a rule of thumb. There are some people that make it easier than others to sit with ourselves and to enjoy quality time. But I do believe that it really starts with us. Like if I genuinely enjoy spending some quality time with myself, and it doesn't have to be 24/7, by the way. I think a lot of people have this misconception that if I start doing these habits of self-love, I have to be so immersed that I don't have time for all my responsibilities. And no, of course not. It can be as simple as taking 10-15 minutes every day to do one thing you love, one thing that relaxes you. It really does not have to be as scary as most people think it should be. But again, we're not used to spending time with ourselves. We're so easily distracted. We have a job, we have a family, we have responsibilities, we have tasks. If we want to really dip into how to have genuine, authentic, high quality time, we really need to start slowing down with ourselves first and really spend time doing things we love, even if it's a few minutes every day. Through practicing that, we will start noticing that we have a heightened capacity to spend quality time with others, because I extend it to you.
And you kind of made me think of something else as well as you were speaking, is after COVID, I found that social anxiety has been even more common. Yani, it's getting more difficult to be in a bigger group of people. It drains your energy faster. So, how do you think can people deal with social anxiety and a depleted social battery?
I'll tell you a personal, very brief personal story. When COVID ended and lockdown stopped and we were able to like, they set us free into the wilderness again.
Go, my loves.
I swear I was so uncomfortable talking to people. I was so uncomfortable having any human interaction. I would start a conversation and then kind of just zone out and like forget that there's like it was not comfortable. So I totally get that on a personal level. I think I'll speak from personal experience. What helped me is to literally put myself in discomfort as often as I can, which we don't love to do, right? We're programmed to get away from discomfort. But it really takes some discipline to be a more expanded version of yourself. If I wanted to stay in my socially anxious persona, I could have just avoided people, stayed in my room forever. خلاص. But I knew as Remi, I wanted to be able to be playful and communicative with people. So I started very intentionally going out of my comfort zone. And here's what I did. This is literal, no joke, what Remi did after COVID. I started going to coffee shops on my own, taking a journal, writing for hours. I had no job then, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And I would just write and write and write. And then I would stare at people, not in a creepy way, but I would like look around and see if anyone sparked something in me. And then I started conversations with strangers. And 9 out of 10 times, it was such a fun conversation to have. It would be so easy, so fun, so light, even if it's a little bumpy at first, because you are going out of your comfort zone. But my advice, if you want to not have social anxiety, let the social anxiety be there and then do the thing that makes you anxious. But you set boundaries, which is, like, I'll segue to that. Don't overdo it to the extent where you're traumatizing yourself, right? It's not like I'm going to the coffee shop and talking to every single person, right? I need to know my boundaries.
I find that, like, maybe 2 years ago, I found it so hard to say no or set boundaries with people. So I, like, whether it's through like people pleasing or I'll do it even though I do not have the capacity to do that, or even يعني, especially when it's someone that's so dear to your heart, you know, how can I say no? Of course I'm gonna do it. No, I have zero capacity. So how do you think we can set boundaries with those who are the closest to us? Because it's easy to say no to someone we do not like, but it's really hard to say no to someone that is so dear to us.
That's true. It can be really difficult to say no, but boundaries sometimes also mean saying yes. So I personally always love to go back to basics, and I would start with defining a boundary. A lot of people think boundaries are walls that separate and protect me from you. I don't think so. I believe boundaries are things I like and don't like. So saying no and saying yes is also a preference. I don't prefer to do this thing, or I prefer to do this thing. But the only way we can actually start setting boundaries is to be, again, emotionally intelligent. How do I feel? When I eat vanilla ice cream, I feel better than when I eat chocolate ice cream, even though I like both. But it's about these nuanced preferences sometimes, you know? So setting a boundary is so much about, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, and I feel comfortable and confident to say yes and no to things I want and don't want. And a lot of people, you said a sentence and it stuck with me, like we don't want to hurt someone's feelings by saying no to them, especially if we care about them or if we're close. Okay, you're not hurting their feelings when you let them cross your boundaries, or when you let yourself cross your boundaries, but you're hurting yourself. So you're getting that pain. That pain isn't disappearing from the universe. Instead of them taking it and you're assuming that they're going to get hurt, you're taking that pain. أنا رح أشد على حالي, رح أجي على حالي to get the thing done. It comes from somewhere. Most of us adopted these beliefs because we were taught the lesson that you're more valuable when you're productive, or you're more valuable when you're useful. All of this is mindset shifts. I need to really sit with what I believe about myself and decide, is this serving me or is this detrimental to my health? Am I really useful? Am I really valuable when I'm useful to someone? Or am I draining myself to feel like I am worthy? And sometimes these are the harder questions that we don't really want to sit with, but need to sit with, to be able to know what my boundaries even are. Because for a lot of us, we don't even know what boundaries mean and what they are for me.
Speaking of boundaries, there are certain people in our lives who are bad for us, let's say, who just, خلاص, naturally, they just make me feel bad. Like there's, love at first sight. There are people who are just hate at first sight, let's say.
Yeah.
But we cannot get rid of them. They could be a family member, they could be someone at work. How would you deal with these relationships?
The relationships or the people that are challenging to us are usually the ones that offer us the most space to learn who we are. And yes, they are challenging because sometimes you have like a lot of anger and frustration. You kind of just want to punch someone, but we don't want to do that, right? If we want to talk about the emotional intelligent, healthy, more aware perspective, it's really understanding that the people that irritate us, they're just showing us something about ourselves internally. They're reflecting a part of us that actually might need our attention. The part of us needs our attention, not them. We actually can choose to not give them attention. And it might be difficult at first, especially if there's someone we have to deal with often. But we get to start learning how to give them less attention. And a lot of that is in our mind, by the way. Like what we do often is we give a lot of attention to someone in our thought process. We're so mad at the person. We're so frustrated. Why did they do that? Who do they think they are? How could they hurt me this way? And we go on, and this thought process gains so much momentum that it takes a chokehold on us. So if we start practicing saying in our mind, I don't want to think about this person. They don't actually deserve that much energy out of me. I'll deal with them when I need to deal with them. And the rest of the time, I'm going to focus on things that bring me joy. Because I deserve to feel good. I deserve to feel happy right now. Not when they are out of my life somehow. Right?
But thank you so much for sharing these little tips and little advices with us. And yeah.
Thank you.
It's lovely having you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Zanzun.